Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Dennis Wilson and the unfinished solo album he was working on with Daryl Dragon in 1971. But before we get into that, I wanted to mention something related to the last episode. So last time we were talking about the song Won't You Tell Me, a song written by Brian and Murray that was sort of rejected by the Beach Boys. And I mentioned that I had some vague info about Murray wanting to use that song afterwards and produce it for a guy named Steve Owen. And we sort of half-jokingly said, if Steve Owen is out there, or if anyone knows Steve Owen, send him over to us. We'd love to learn more about this guy. Well, it turns out that someone listening, I didn't get this person's name, but thank you to this person. Someone listening was friends with Steve Owen, reached out to him, and Steve actually reached out to us, and I ended up talking to him over the phone, and he gave us far more information than we had about his connection to Murray, and he learned a lot about the song that he sang on that he wasn't really privy to what Brian, Carl, and Dennis's connections to the song were and their involvement with it. So he sort of told us that Murray actually recorded him singing that song in April of 1973 and wanted it to be a hit in Japan. They had all these plans to release it in Japan, and Steve sort of continued to follow up with him, and one day visited the house in mid or late June of 1973, and Audrey answered the door and had to let him know that Murray had passed away. So this was one of the last things that Murray worked on before his death, and Steve was just sort of a young friend of Brian's who would help the Beach Boys in the studio every now and then. And he actually also revealed to us that he sang in the background vocals of All I Want to Do on Sunflower. He's singing the second highest part below Brian on the dit 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 part. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Definitely unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely surreal that you just happened to be. Well, I never would have brought the whole thing up if you didn't have the actual acetate from that day, just next to you in your room, from some of the other stuff that you're doing, and then that one thing led to another, and yeah, that's one of the weirdest things that's happened to us while we're doing this podcast so far. But it was pretty cool, and then found out a lot about that sort of side of Murray's life, and an extra singer on All I Want to Do now, and yeah. So thank you, Steve. That was really unexpected and very cool.
Yeah, and he told me that he really appreciated what we're doing, and he learned, again, when he sang it, it was a track that had been done a year and a half in advance, so he kind of had no idea who had created it. He just was working with Murray directly on that, so he enjoyed learning about it. He says, he told me that he's sort of finally getting his 5 minutes of fame 50 years later, which I thought was funny. And yeah, he helped to shed some light on the history there. So thank you, Steve.
Yeah, and my favorite part of that whole thing was that at Murray's suggestion, Audrey held his hand in the studio to give him confidence while he sang, which he said was just completely insane and didn't help at all.
Yes, as usual. Let's talk about Dennis.
We covered a couple of his songs last time that were going to be Beach Boys songs that weren't on the Surf's Up album, and then we kept mentioning that we were going to get to the reasons why they weren't on the album, and I think we sort of just